Hi, thank you very much, and I appreciate your support of the Spirit's Voice. I'm terribly sorry I haven't recorded a lot lately. Actually, I haven't recorded a lot lately anywhere. Spirit's Voice, GunGuyTV, doesn't really matter. I've been so busy I haven't done it. Looks like my wife's coming home here. What I wanted to do for you today is not so much a Bible lesson as just a vlog and sort of using me as a crummy example. If I could use myself as a trash example for you, I'll do that. So, just recently, one of the reasons I haven't posted a lot is I've been super busy, and I've been super busy. Everybody's busy, right? It's the holidays, and if you got family, you got drama, and all that stuff happens. It just happens. And then we all have stuff. Some of us have financial stuff. Some of us have other kinds of stuff, maybe medical stuff or whatever. So everybody has issues and things going on in their lives. So I'm not trying to say that mine's worse than anybody else. It's my response to them, which really was terrible. So anyway, we had a really tough problem with a rental property. And in the sense that we had a really big plumbing job that we had to do with it. I won't get into the minutia of it, but it was expensive, and the plumbing property's in another county, so I had to travel. So it was kind of a nightmarish thing to go through, and I found myself freaking out about it. I mean, just really freaking out about it. It was expensive, it was going to be difficult, it was, Tenant was wanting to know what the heck's going on next, so I'm trying to do that, and I'm trying to do all these other things, and I just got super overwhelmed. And one of the reasons I got overwhelmed was that I really wasn't inquiring of the Lord. I wasn't spending any time with God. I was just trying to do it myself. And I'm that guy. If there's a problem, I want to fix it. I want to get after it right now. I want to get on it. I'm going to do it right now, man. I'm going to get in there. You can't keep me from fixing it. It's like, God, I don't need you. I can handle this. You just go back in your box that I carved for you. I'm going to take care of this. And you would think at my age that I would have sorted this out and figured out that that doesn't work. And most of the time I think I have, but every once in a while I just go right back into my old mode of doing things, and it tortures me. So as a result, I'm like 2.5 weeks into this nightmarish situation. Part of it is the problem with the house. Part of it is where the house is. It's very difficult to get tradespeople out there to work on it. And then the other thing is that it's very difficult to get tradespeople out there who are going to be honest, because in that area they're all crooks. I'm not going to tell you what area it is because I don't want to disparage people, but the truth is it's very, very difficult to get tradespeople out there that aren't going to lie and cheat and steal, because they do that. I'm in San Diego where you have an element of that, but there's so many tradespeople you can pick and choose, and I have a great plumber who's awesome here. Took me a while to talk him into it, but I finally talked him into going out there and doing the job. And we had to basically replumb the whole house. We had to bypass all the plumbing under the slab and replumb the whole place through the rafters and go through the attic. And so that was a major project. And then of course, anytime you start turning walls, you find other stuff and so on. So here I am, I'm stirring up, I'm like the industrial strength producer of stomach acid during this time. I got so much stomach acid I'm producing that I can't sleep. I've got acid reflux going on. I've got, everything I eat makes me miserable. And when you got your upset stomach or whatever, you're just miserable. It takes all the joy out of life. It really does. And so I was just totally miserable, and it was all of my own making. I'm making myself miserable. And so I talked with a couple friends about it. In fact, it was funny because it seemed like one problem after another was piling up on me, because at the same time we had what turned out to be a very, very minor electrical problem in this house, but it affected about a third of the house where the lights the breaker went, and I went out to flip the breaker to see if it was just a breaker, and of course it went again, so I replaced the breaker, and it still blew the breaker, so I realized there was a short someplace. Well, in my mind, I'm running down a mouse has gotten in the house, in some wall somewhere, there's a short, I'm gonna have to hire an electrician, blah, 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 blah. So now I'm going down, I got the rental property to be anxious about, I got this house to be anxious about, and I'm just making myself horribly, horribly miserable about everything. And there's no joy in life. And I'm thinking about, okay, well, I'll go read the Bible, maybe that'll help. And I get over into Philippians 4, and I read, do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, with prayer, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving. And I stopped right there. And I thought, I don't have any thanksgiving. I'm having trouble being grateful. I don't have any hope. I feel like life is hopeless. And I'm in this terrible depression era thing right here, where everything is hopeless, everything is falling apart, nothing is good, and all these extremes and absolutes of negativeness. that's where I was at. And so I just thought, I can't do this anymore. I lost my temper a couple of times. I was harsh with people. And then one day I thought, I just can't continue to do this. I can't do this anymore. So I sat down and I just decided I gotta get God in my head, and I gotta get all this garbage out of my head. So I sat down with my Bible and I tried to read. Gee, forget it. I couldn't do it. I couldn't concentrate on it. I was so dragged off into other stuff. And so I thought, well, I got to do something. So I sat down one day, and I took the day off, and I just sat down and did nothing. I got up in the morning, I got breakfast, I'm sitting there miserable, my stomach's all churned up, and I just binged watched The Chosen, the first season of The Chosen. And if you've never watched The Chosen by Angel Studios, I encourage you to do that. It's a marvelous depiction of Jesus' life. They do an excellent job. Just an outstanding program. And it's very encouraging and very thought-provoking and very spiritually, it stirs up the good things in your spirit and chases away the bad. So I watched that all day. I mean, all day and into the evening. I just watched the whole season, one right after another. The only thing I got up for was to, use the restroom and get something to eat, and that was it. And because I thought I got to get God in my head, God in my soul, and get all this garbage I've filled myself up with out. And at the end of the day, in the evening, I felt much better. My stomach was still stirred up, but I slept through the night, which I hadn't done in quite a while. And so the next day I got up, I came out here to this little table we set out here, my wife and I got, and actually she found it for free. We set it out here, it was kind of cool. We've been using it, I've been using it. We used it for Halloween and had people come and sit with us, and it was really pretty neat. So we've used it as sort of a gathering place, the round table, hey. King Arthur had one, so why don't we? So I thought, well, I'll go out here and sit out here and read my Bible out here, because I tried to do it in the house, but there's the computer, and there's the phone, and there's the cell phone, and there's the email, and there's just distractions, and there's the dogs and whatever. I thought I'd go in the backyard, we got a pretty good sized yard and area there, but the dogs are out there, and they're, they want attention, and so they're barking or they're coming to get you or whatever, and you just can't focus. So I found this table sort of my spot. So I came out here and I read my Bible, and I thought, okay, I'm going to do pretty well, and I got a good start in the day. And of course, my stomach is still stirred up because I'm only one day in trying to get over this. But I actually got through the day. I focused on the Lord. I stopped and watched an episode of The Chosen. Anytime I felt like I was running amok, I went back to God, and I found that in practice, what I hadn't been doing is I understand that Jesus says, "Take my yoke upon you," because I'm gentle and humble of heart. Take my yoke upon you, because my yoke is easy and my burden is light. And I've read that scripture many times, and I understand what that means, that he's carrying the burden. I'm really not. I've got a hold of the yoke, but the truth is he's carrying it. I'm not carrying it. I can't carry it, but he can. And so this is the way to live your life, is to connect with Christ and let him carry these burdens while you do the little things, the little parts that you can do, trusting in him to resolve the big parts. So intellectually I understand that, but I wasn't doing it. Intellectually I understand, do not be worried, do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation by prayer and petition with thanksgiving present your request to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, the peace of God will guard your heart in Christ Jesus. It won't necessarily fix all the problems, but it'll guard your heart against all the stomach acid. I mean, if you could have bottled all the stomach acid I produced, you probably could have sold it to a steel factory, and they would have used it to burn through steel. I don't know, but I was producing a lot of it. I understand that, but I wasn't putting that into practice. I understand, do not worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will take care of itself. Each day has enough troubles of its own, but I wasn't putting that into practice. I understand, why do you worry about what you will eat, what you will wear, and that kind of stuff? The pagans run after all these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. I understand these scriptures. I've read them. I know them. But I wasn't practicing them. I was trying to deal with it on my own, in my own way, which means I wanted stuff done the way I wanted it done. I wanted it done on my schedule. I wanted people to be where they're supposed to be when they were supposed to be there. And none of it worked out that way. None of it. But what's interesting is with God's timing, it actually worked out better than my timing. I was concerned because the tenant that we have in that house right now, is a construction company, and they're renting it for their workers. They're only there Monday through Thursday, and then they jet out and go back home to Phoenix, and they come back out because they got a project out in that valley out there. So they're in that house. They've been there for 18 months. But for the last 4 or 5 months, it's been a, hey, can we stay another month? Can we stay another month? Can we stay another month kind of a deal. And I never know when they're going to say we're done. And so I'm freaking out because I got all this big project I got to do, which is going to take a lot of money, and it did, and it's going to take a lot of time, and it did. And but it's going to be great when it's done, and it is. But I'm thinking, you know, if they decide they don't want to stay, I'm done. If they're and this is going to be really tough because we're going to not only am I taking all this money out of my retirement savings to fix all these problems, I'm going to have to take more money out to solve all these other problems if they don't stay. And I don't anticipate them staying because they keep telling me they're going to be done. So this is all this stuff I'm piling on. I'm predicting the future, which I can't do. You know, I don't even know what's going to happen in the next 10 minutes. But I'm like, I got in my mind that, you know, I'm going to need an electrician for this house, and it's going to be this and this and this and this, and then they're going to tell me that they're done at the end of the month, and I'm going to have an empty house, and I don't have the rent coming in, and I got to shell out all this money, and I got to do all this stuff, and we don't have the rent coming in, and all this stuff's going through my head. Rather than going to God and saying, you know what, Lord, your timing is best, your way is best, praying about it and giving all that stuff, all that predictive stuff, all that what's going to happen next, all that what's going to happen tomorrow, give that to the Lord, and then just do my tasks that I can do, and let timing be His, and let the future be what He makes happen, not what I make happen. Because, you know, there's a great scripture somewhere, I think it's in James, I could be wrong, that says, you know, you say that you're going to go this place for a couple of years and you're going to make money and you're going to do this and you're going to do that, when you should say, if it's the Lord's will, then I will go and I will do and I will have all these plans. But I want to make my plans work. Well, as it turned out, my plans didn't work. It took 3 weeks to get the job done instead of 1. It's still not done. There's some stuff we have to do with the irrigation plumbing because whatever knucklehead put that in before we bought the house 20 some odd years ago, connected it directly to the house plumbing. So now we have to disconnect that. Otherwise, it will feed water to the now completely bypassed copper piping, which has still got some lines going in the walls, and I don't want water going into the walls and then flooding my house. So we have to go out there on Monday and get that sorted, and I still have to get the guy out, the drywall guy out there, to replace the drywall that needed to be removed in order to run the PEX and all the new plumbing, and texture it and paint it and make it match and clean up the inside. Fortunately, the company that's renting it doesn't care about all that. These are construction guys. They're there only 4 days a week. They're not living there. It's not like a wife and husband and 3 kids, and they're concerned about, wow, there's holes in the walls and all this stuff. They don't care. So that is a blessing. They're staying another month, so that is a blessing. All these blessings came in spite of my stomach acid, in spite of my making myself completely and utterly miserable. And then when I finally had binged The Chosen and gotten back into the Word and said, no, God, I am sorry, I apologize, I'm a sinner, I'm a mess, I should have been with you and I wasn't. I was trying to take care of this stuff on my own, trying to tell the future when I don't have the ability to do that, trying to predict the future when I don't know how to do that, trying to decide what you're going to do when you're God and I'm not. When I finally had a brain on, I woke up one morning and the spirit in my head is going, you know, why don't you go through the house, this house, and turn off all the lights and all the circuits that are affected by the power problem, by the breaker, because I had replaced the breaker and it went anyway, so I knew it was in there somewhere. Why don't you go turn off all the individual circuits, go outside when they're all off, and turn the breaker back on and see if it stays. And if it does, then you can go back in the house and turn on each circuit one at a time and figure out which one is where the short is. You know, had I been thinking clearly, had I not stressed myself out, I probably would have done that at the outset, but I wasn't, and I wasn't thinking clearly, and I was stressing myself out because I was trying to be God rather than trusting in Him. And so I did that morning. I got myself a cup of, you know, decaf or something because I'm trying to get away from the caffeine. It churns up my stomach too much. And I went outside and I went around, I turned off all the lights. It's a third of the house, okay? So I'm going through the whole house, turn off all the lights, and one of the circuits that wasn't working is the circuit to the sump pump we have in the back. Sometimes when we have a really, really big storm, the neighboring property on this side is a little higher than ours, and some of the water will come into our yard. It's not too bad, but we have a sump pump system that will pump that out to the street. And then if it's a really bad storm, I have some portable pumps we'll drop into the various holes with the grates, and that helps it pump it out to the street. So, you know, I have extra pumps. But I turned off the switch to that sump pump, went back, flipped the breaker on, and it stayed, and I went in the house. All of them were fine. The only circuit that has a problem is the sump pump. There's a short in the sump pump somewhere, either in the power line to it or the pump itself. Well, it's sitting in water, right? So now I got to replace that. Well, that's a $200 and maybe $250 exercise, and I can do it myself. I've done it over the years, the decades we've had this house. I've done it at least twice because they die eventually, right? So then so all the angst I had about having to walk around the house with flashlights and get the little camp lanterns, battery operated camp lanterns out for every room and all that kind of stuff, I wouldn't have had to do any of that if I had just listened to the Lord and gone out and flipped all the switches off and flipped the breaker and gone, oh, okay, all the lights in the house work, everything in the house works, it's just a sump pump. But I was so jacked up that I was making myself completely miserable. So what's the lesson here, I think? I think it should be obvious, but in case it's not. The lesson here, I think, is that we got to slow our roll a little bit. We're always going to have problems. Jesus said, you will have troubles in this world, but take heart, I have overcome the world. He told us that the day that we don't have troubles is the day that we'll be with him. He will have returned and we'll be with him. Or we pass away and we're with him. But until then, as long as we're walking this earth, bones are still going to break, hearts are still going to break, trouble's still going to find us. We're still going to have to face it. We can face it with him, or we can do what I was doing, which is facing it without him. And in doing so, we murder ourselves. We literally murder ourselves. I mean, I was doing acid reflux. I had all this stuff going on. I had one moment where I thought I was going to have a heart attack. I was so stressed out I had to grab something because I thought I'm starting to feel a little lightheaded here. And that's when I said, okay, I can't do this anymore. I gotta run to God. I can't try to do this on my own anymore. Was at that moment. Fortunately, it didn't kill me, but I am 65 years old, and you know, that kind of stress on me at my age is probably harder on somebody than when they're 20, but I'm not sure it's good anytime. So learn from the old fool here and focus on the Lord and not on the problem. And when the problem is too big for you, which for me it is most of the time, run to the Lord with it and trust in his wisdom and in his timing. I've discovered, so all this stuff goes away, right? So the problems are 99% solved, and his timing has been brilliant throughout. And I may find that when we get out there to do the sprinkler stuff that something's leaked and now there's an additional problem or whatever. You know, if there is, there is. It is what it is. I had the landscaper call me today and say, hey, what's going on? And I had a conversation with him, and he told me something that kind of worried me about that. And then I thought, no, I'm not going down that path. I'll be out there on Monday with Pete. We'll sort it out. Until then, I'm not going to fuss with it. I'll reach out to the tenant and ask him if anything's leaking. But there's no sense in me driving an hour and a half out there to sort it out unless there's something leaking. And even if there is, I'll go out there and have to turn something off and apologize, and we'll deal with it. But I'll let God deal with the timing. I trust him. I have faith in him. That's the big deal. So I think it's important to learn from me, not because I'm brilliant, because I'm not, but because I screwed this up. And it's been a tough lesson for me. I'm hoping that maybe you can learn from my rotten example and run to God for everything. Even the things that you're tempted to go, nope, I got this, I can handle it. If you're saying I got this, I can handle it, you probably don't got it, and you probably can't handle it. Just run to God with it, and then do the parts that you can do, and let him be God. He will take care of everything else for you, and it'll work out. It'll work out. Anyway, that's my little story. Like I said, not so much a Bible lesson. I guess it was a little bit, but more of a vlog. Thank you again for all of your patience. I really do appreciate you sticking with me as I try to get this little YouTube channel and little Rumble channel going. I'm posting these videos also on the GunGuyTV Twitter account or X account, but primarily they're on Rumble and on YouTube. I hope that these lessons affect you well and that they encourage you in the Lord. And my hope is that they will encourage other people in the Lord, and God will use these for His own glory in your life as well as mine. One way or the other, I thank you very much for watching all the way through and listening. Have a great week and have a very Merry Christmas.